Picking the ideal bike for racing criteriums is pretty straightforward. You want something with a stiff frame, big gears, aero wheels. Picking a bike for a hill climb, however, is kind of on the other end of the spectrum. You want smaller gears to spin up the steeps, and you want the whole thing to be as stupid light as possible. In this horse for the course, however, I'm going to see if we can get one bike that does them both well. Here in Colorado, Pikes Peak tops out at 14,115 feet. That's about 4,300 meters for those of you counting in old money. And the thing is now paved all the way to the top. One day each year they close the mountain to cars, and the Pikes Peak hill climb takes riders up nearly 5,000 feet of vertical, over 12 miles for an average gradient of 7%. Now I have been called many things on a bike before, but a climber is not one of them. Suffice it to say, I had never been up Pikes Peak before. For the criterium portion of this horse for the course test, I did a local race in Denver, and then a couple of Wednesday night crits, including one in the rain. Note to self, when there's rain in the forecast, replace the cork pads with the Swiss stop pads. You stupid, stupid man. Anyhow, for the crit, the bike and the gear work great. The Scott foil is notoriously stiff, but with good pavement there's no problem. The crits were all big ring affairs, and I loved using the Di2 to fine-tune my cadence right from the drops. I have to say though, the shifting at the lever can feel a little vague when inside the noise of the bunch. Sometimes you can press, or think you're pressing the button as the lever moves a little, without actually shifting. I didn't realize how much I relied on the sound of the shift to confirm engagement. The Bontrager Aeolus wheels are nice and stiff, which feels great when cornering and when accelerating. The Bontrager tubeless tires are fine. They're not the lightest, they're not the grippiest, and not the most supple, but they're not slouches in any of these categories either. The Garmin Verb is fun to race with, as you can link your heart rate monitor and your power meter straight into the thing, and the device itself records speed, elevation, temperature, and more. As for what you film, it's key to have someone in front of you. Otherwise, bike action camera movies are boring. Having someone to watch, as well as a frame of reference, makes a huge difference. And I'm not just saying that as my excuse for sitting in the break. Really! Pikes Peak would be the true test. Would the low gear of 36.28 be low enough? Pretty much right out of the gate at 9,000 feet, I was bottomed out in the gear. My cadence for the climb hovered around 65, a good 15 RPM or so lower than ideal. Cadence aside, weight is obviously the big factor when climbing. At 185 pounds or 84 kilos, I wasn't exactly a threat to the course record of 1 hour, 8 minutes, 36 seconds. As usual, of course, I was just interested in trying to beat my buddies. Alas, this too was not to be. Analyticscycling.com has a cool calculator for weight and slope. For the Pikes Peaks course and my bike and body weight, I would have needed to shed 1.25 kilos or 2.7 pounds to gain a minute. That's about the weight of 2 full water bottles. Well, since my buddy Dave put 3 minutes into me on the day, there was no sense in riding without a drink. Had I had a lower gear though, you'd better believe I would have used it, especially in that last 1,000 feet of vertical, as the air got really thin. So, can one bike work well for both crits and a 14er? Well enough, I'd say. The reality is that climbing a 14er is something I've done, once in my life, and I'd rather have a bike set up for what I normally ride. I am a huge fan of the 36 ring for normal climbs, although Shimano doesn't recommend the 53-36 combo. The Di2 front derailleur shifts between the two flawlessly. Maybe the next time I do a 14er, I'll see how well it shifts down to a 34 small ring.